picture of what lies in store for the United States. And I want everybody to understand the real enemies of the U.S. are congregating like vultures around us. Ever since Biden betrayed all of our international partners, they're making deals behind the, off the grid of most people, even the intelligence agencies, because America has lost its prowess, it's lost its friends, and now, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly, in my opinion, Babylon is falling and is falling and is going to fall. The next 48 hours are critical. Information that's come to me is that there's going to be multiple false flag attacks, both in the United States and in Europe, the major cities, and it's designed to maximize fear, to have people run for the protection of the very government that's initiating the false flag, Mike. And this is
to explore here. Janet Yellen warning that the current United States financial system comes to an end October 15th unless Congress intervenes and passes a new debt ceiling and allows them to continue to print money. But if they keep printing money, the food inflation is already 40% compared to a year ago, that Biden's trying to cover up, of course, well, his handlers, but they are hyper-inflating the system. A dollar devaluation is accelerating. We are in the we're in the hyperinflation blowout stage of the U.S. dollar. The end is very near on this. It could happen in October, or they might be able to kick the can down the road a little bit longer. But in your opinion, Steve, how close are we to the end of the United States empire based on the petrodollar?
Well, first of all, I believe we're within probably 60 days of that, because information that came to me that obviously you've seen is that at the 11:38 mark, at 11:38 a.m. on Wall Street, there will be a declaration by the Fed itself declaring force majeure. And that simply means because of let's say a situation beyond control, in this case there's too much debt and nothing to pay it back, that the American dollar becomes worthless. And what Janet Yellen has done, Mike, in my opinion, is telegraphed the entire world that the United States dollar is coming to an end. And as further proof of that, there's an operation called Sandman, based on the petrodollar. Saudi Arabia and the oil petroleum exporting countries are going to basically refuse to take U.S. dollar. And most people don't know, but up until this point, actually up until a couple years ago, all of the oil that was bought and sold was in U.S. dollars. Well, that day's coming to an end because there's an agreement of 130 nations to abandon the U.S. dollar concurrently and simultaneously when the go signal is given. So, Mike, I think people need to get that. That means the money you have in your account denominated in American dollars goes away. It means your credit cards no longer work. It means all the benefits, whether it's EBT, whether it's Social Security, whether it's all these things. And look, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but this is the plan they have to starve out America. And this is the equivalent, in my opinion, Stalin's Holodomor coming up, where 5 million Ukrainians were starved to death.
This is Har1 by Yasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. I want to say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Harakah Kodash, Ma'amaf. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders. Shalom to you, Akim, Nakwatim, and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. Yeah, man, that was a lot of topics that came up in that interview with Steve Quayle. Now, that's a website a lot of brothers can check out, and sisters, called Brighteon. All right. Yeah, just check it out. All right, it's a site that's being blocked by a lot of the corporate entities. All right, due to a lot of doctors being on it and coming out with the truth, going against these mandates and stuff like that. So now let's get into the topics. You have something a word that I've been waiting to hear for a long time, all the way back. What was that guy's name, man? When he was the Fed chairman. Let me get it real quick. I don't have to get. I think his name was Bernanke. All right, Bernanke. If I'm wrong, somebody leave in the comment board. But I remember, if I remember correctly, his name was Fed Chairman Bernanke or something like that. And when he was in that power seat before Janet Yellen, you have, he said a word that you don't want to hear is called a force majeure. When you hear that, that means that's when America basically defaults on a debt. And a default is when you basically admit that you can't pay something. All right. And the buyer of the debt, so basically, is Europe, right? The Feds, owned by the Bank of England. They created the debt here in America, which is way above 6 trillion and all that. Is really at, they said, saying 400 trillion. But you know, that debt, they started selling it out to different people around the world. All right, debt became a commodity. All right, that's with the establishment of the dollar as a debt note, promise to pay, tied to gold, promise to pay you in gold, right? That was redeemable in gold. But now, ever since 1971, with the Nixon shock, it's only contractual or operating under default, and they made it the world currency. All right. Now, there we go. All right. So it's called the Bretton Woods Agreement, or Bretton Woods System, that was set up basically in the midst of World War II. All right, where all these countries came together and agreed to establish the dollar as their currency. All right. But now, let's get this. I'm gonna read it. It says the Bretton Woods system, and this of monetary management. So monetary, dealing with money. All right. Established the rules of commercial and financial relations among the United States, Canada, Western Europe. See, not Russia, but Western Europe. All right, with Britain and all of them. Basically, the dragon of the beast nations. Australia, which is owned by China, and Japan. After the 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement, the Bretton Woods system was the first example of a fully negotiated monetary order. So that was basically the first world order. Now they're doing a new world order. All right. So it was the first monetary order intended. See, they did that right in the midst of World War II. Now they're going into World War III, trying to set up a new monetary system. All right. But matter of fact, all right. So now it says, for example, the first example of a fully negotiated monetary order intended to govern monetary relations among independent states. The chief features of the Bretton Woods system were an obligation for each country to adopt a monetary policy. So basically start to hold dollars in reserve, all right, American dollars, that maintained its external exchange rates with 1% by tying its currency to gold, and the ability of the International Monetary Fund to bridge temporary imbalances of payments. So that was basically establishment of the IMF. Also, there was a need to address the lack of cooperation among other countries and to prevent competitive devaluation of the currencies as well. All right, preparing to rebuild the international economic system while World War II was still being fought. All right, so that's that Build Back Better mindset. That's that pagan Illuminati agenda. All right, order out of chaos. 730 delegates from all 44 allied nations gathered at the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods. New Hampshire, United States, for the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference, all right? Also known as the Bretton Woods Conference, basically a Masonic meeting. The delegates deliberated from 1 to 22 July 1944 and signed the Bretton Woods Agreement on its final day, setting up a system of rules, institutions, and procedures to regulate the international monetary system. These accords established the IMF. See, I was right. That's what established it. All right. That's what established the International Monetary Fund, man, ran by Britain and England. So they that made those elites richer, man. And gave them control over all the world's money, being the regulators. It says, and they created a basket for all the world's currencies to be, transferred over to other currencies, and to keep an evaluation, sort of like Wall Street, on a world scale, and also like Bitcoin prior to Bitcoin being made, a system. Well, not Bitcoin, but blockchain. All right, now, but it says this. I'm gonna get to the point. So that's what established the IMF. That's important, because that's who's gonna push. That's who's pushing the SDR, special drawing rights, to America. We're gonna give America one choice to have special drawing rights as a currency, and to back it, give it a physical form of the chip. All right, the MOB, as everybody's saying now. And the International Bank of Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, which today is part of the World Bank Group. World Bank Group is owned by England as well. The United States, which controlled 2/3 of the world's gold, insisted. See, America used to have all that gold in Fort Knox, all the way up to the 60s and 70s. There's no more gold there, man. So who got the power now? China. And they're insisting on a new system. And that new system is going to be based on blockchain. And to be able to read people's, physical, if you get my point, data. All right. So they're trying to create a whole new currency system to where there's no dollars involved, no fiat currency, floating money, paper money, no freedom, no privacy. All right. Credit, social credit based system. It says the United States. So now that's what China's doing now. But before it was America for their world order that they set up after World War II. All right. This was This was the dragon establishing the whore. This is Revelations 13. I start from 1 just to get to the point. Revelations 13 and 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. Talking about NATO and the European Union, basically, the establishment, which brought about the power seat of America, the whore. And it says, having 7 heads and 10 horns, talking about the European Union, all right, and NATO. And upon his horns, 10 crowns. Upon his heads, the name of blasphemy. The beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, like the Greek Empire. All right, and his feet was like, whereas the feet of a bear. So the end of it, it was basically establishment of Esau rulership. And the end of it was going to be with Russia. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. So that's when they really started speaking and gaining their power in the world around the 1950s. Around the time they had America and Britain moving as the mouthpiece of NATO at that time. That was going into World War II. All right, because before that, Britain was the main player in World War One. All right, against Germany and such. But then after World War One, Britain spent so much money in the war and lost so many people in their weaponry, that they had to fall back during World War II. So they became a financer, and a mouthpiece for it. And you had the main players in World War II, which is known as the four policemen. I can't remember the name. I think it was Russia. I don't have to get the name, but you can look it up. It was World War II, man. But the main players, as I was trying to say, was Russia and America on the scene, and that's what brought them into the power seat. All right, and China played the back seat and clinged to Russia and America and rode both of their backs all the way through the waves. So that's why scriptures speak about Asia as well, China. But anyway, to get to the point, that was the establishment of Russia and America being on the scene as the two contenders for World War III. All right, the nuclear war age began with World War II. The atom bomb, America dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. All right, then you had Russia started doing their nuclear tests, where they first started seeing those spirals in the sky, and they thought they was UFOs, or chariots, but it was really missile tests by Russia done in the 1950s, and that's when they realized, oh snap, Russia is on the scene. All right, so they've been doing building up their weapons ever since. All right, nuclear enrichment, weapons technology advancements. So now, let's get to the point. Revelation 13 and 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet was like the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. So that's why Britain had to play the background and became like the bankers, that type of power within the World War II. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. All right, so Europe gave NATO its power and seat and great authority. But then the next mouthpiece for NATO became America, spearhead in World War II. In the 1950s with President Eisenhower, he became the mouthpiece for NATO. All right, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and the deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast, man, of the Roman Empire. Let's get to the point real quick. Now it says here, verse 11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and that's talking about America, another kingdom. All right, so it's not just a little proxy nation. This is a kingdom called America, Babylon. And he had two horns like a lamb, so two separate divisions that create this kingdom, Democrats and Republicans. And he spake as a dragon. So they pushed all the policies, the same government order, the Senate, Congress, all that from the Roman Empire, all their draconian measures and their New World Order, their banking system, religion, all that, the paganism, everything from the Roman Empire. All right, so, and he exercised of all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So through America, Rome was able to get rich, or the European Union. All right, those elites. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth, so he caused fire to come down. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, I think it was Big Boy and Little Man, or Fat Boy. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. All right. So he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. So through America, that's the power that they were given to help establish these systems, this New World Order agenda. That's why America's the whore that got pimped, you know, by Lucifer, those elites over there. And they basically pimped this place, man, and gave it a currency, a dollar, and used that dollar to snatch all the resources from the world and control. All right. So all they gotta do is pull the dollar away, and that's the string that's gonna unravel the whole ball of yarn. Because it's the world currency. So now they're building a new system dedicated to Europe, man. That's what them devils come out speaking from over there. Charles Schloss, Rothschilds, all these damn Edomites. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, man. And that's what time we in now. They ready to kill off anybody that doesn't submit to their system. That's what they're literally trying to do right now, to kill off the ones that submit and the ones that don't submit, you know, really. So now, let's get back. All right. So now it says this: preparing to rebuild international economic system. The international economic system, while World War II was still being fought, 730 delegates from all 44 allied nations gathered at the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, United States, for the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference, also known as the Bretton Woods Conference. The delegates deliberated from 1 to 22 July 1944 and signed the Bretton Woods Agreement on its final day, setting up a system of rules, institutions, and procedures, basically the image, to regulate the international monetary system. These accords established the IMF and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which today is part of the World Bank Group. The United States, here go the point, which controlled 2/3 of the world's gold, all right, at that time. Not anymore. All right, through debt, they was able to pluck that gold out of here. It says, insisted that the Bretton Woods system rest on both gold and the U.S. dollar. That's what I was trying to say from the beginning, but I figured I'd give an understanding on what the Bretton Woods Agreement was in 1944 and how it got established and what they're doing now. This was the establishment of their first world order. Now they're moving to a new monetary order. All right, and system. That's the image, Bretton Woods system. Rest on both gold and the U.S. dollar. That's when the dollar got established and pegged to gold. Soviet representatives attended the conference, but later declined to ratify the final agreements, charging that the institutions they had created were branches of Wall Street. All right, so anyway, we basically got to the point. That's when they established the dollar and pegged it to gold. All right. So now let's get back to this. All right. So now I'm gonna read this brief article dealing with the Nixon shock. All right. It happened in 1971, and this is when they depegged the dollar from gold. All right. So this is important to know, just like stepping up a ladder all the way until now. So this is when they took the dollar away from gold. All right, and the dollar became pegged to oil. All right, with the OPEC deal in 1973, all right, or 74. I'm probably read that briefly as well. But you had something called the Nixon shock, 1971, and that's when Nixon shocked the world nations and said, "Yo, we're not pegging the dollar to gold anymore," because after Vietnam, all the nations saw that America was buying weapons, and they like, "Yo, you ain't got no money to buy weapons. How you buying weapons?" I think France was one of them, and they was like, "Yo, we want our money back. We want our gold." All right, because before that, they would give a bullion of gold for like $30. So Russia and all them gave a bunch of gold up to America to get dollars so they can buy stuff around the world. You see that? And they can have dollars on reserve because they had a lot of gold. But now all of a sudden they're like, "Yo, hold up. You got more dollars out here, debt notes, promises to return or pay, and certificates. You got more of those out in the world than you have amounts of gold. That means, hold up, you're hyperinflating these dollars, creating duplicates." So they're like, "Yo, give us our gold back. We want our gold back." And by that time, America, like, they knew at that moment, if these nations pulled away from that deal, it would collapse the dollar. The dollar would be done. It's called a dollar crash, a dollar collapse. That means nobody has faith in the dollar around the world, so it's no longer a currency. That's when everything stops. The grinding ceases, all right? So, and now, so what happened next? I guess I'll read the article, but I just keep talking about it, all right? And what happened next would be, Nixon pulling away from the gold. And he said to the nations like Russia, now he said, "Yo, we're not going to pay you back in gold. Matter of fact, we're depegging the gold from the dollar." So all these nations felt robbed, man. They could have went to war, but due to the IMF, see the setup, the IMF was already in place. Boom, order out of chaos. So they established the IMF prematurely. Already established it, and the next thing you know, the IMF said, "Yo, we created SDR basket, a basket of currencies, and where all you nations can have special drawing rights." And then that's when they created that, you know. Then after that, you had 1973. Since the dollar was a floating currency now, it had to be pegged to something. So they pegged it to oil. All right. 1973 was called the OPEC deal, the oil petroleum exporting countries, and the main one was Iran and Saudi Arabia. So now they made a deal with Saudi Arabia, all right, and then and with Iran saying they'll protect all their oil fields if they force all the world to trade oil in dollars. All right, so they went to the Middle East and said, "Hey, all you oil producing countries, all y'all force Russia and them to buy oil in dollars." So that would cause Russia and them to have to come back to America, buy dollars just to go overseas and buy oil. See that? It's a hustle. So now that happened in 1973 or 74, called the OPEC deal. So now the dollar's pegged to oil. Mind you, if they depeg it or all the nations pull away from that deal, that's the end of the dollar at that moment. Credit cards stop. Everything that's valued in dollars will end. They had to literally move to a new currency or peg to the dollar, which would be blockchain. All right. And they would have to create the digital dollar. That would be the new form. And that's what they're doing. So now, let me just get some scripture now that I made all these points. I guess I won't read the article. You can look it up yourself. But now this is what they're doing now. All right, basically these nations like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan, all these countries, they look at Biden as if he betrayed the Middle East by pulling out of Afghanistan, causing a civil unrest over there, and the wars over there, man, and pulling out of the deals with Iran, going to war with trying to start a war with Iran. All right. So now they're looking at America saying, yo, they are uniting and preparing to pull away from the OPEC deal at the same time. All right. At the same moment, they're going to pull away from the OPEC deal. So, and that's all scriptural, and that's going to put an end. And that's why the guy said it. He said, Babylon is falling. It's falling and it will fall. Habakkuk 2:5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man. It's talking about Esau. All right, especially the ruling class elites over here. Neither keepeth at home, right? They sent their military off over to the Middle East and all around the world, right? America, Babylon. Who enlargeth his desire as hell, right? Anywhere they set their foot, they create hell, man. Sorrow. And is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him? Right, because they try to conquer every damn country. But all these nations now are taking up a parable against this place, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. So they increased in the resource of the world, and with the dollar, and the dollar was not even America's. It's a fake currency. It's a debt. You're increasing in debt, so it's like you don't own it. You don't own anything. Everything they have in this place is like, according to Revelation, it speaks about the great whore and how rich it was. All right. Matter of fact, this is Revelation 18:1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. This time we are now. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, is fallen. Same thing Steve Quayle was repeating. But he don't understand that it's going to, he said it, it's going to be it's falling and will fall. That's right. It's going to be a climax at the end. And is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So now let's get to, for all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So all the ones that got rich off the dollar, rich off America, now they're going to suffer if they keep dealing with America. So that's why they're all pulling away. All right, so now check this out. I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins. That's talking about us. But the hopeful elect, we come out of this place mentally. And that ye receive not her plagues, man. And this is before the missiles. All right. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh hath remembered her iniquities. All right, so now let's get this. Get this point, because this place was rich, but now it's in debt and it's falling. All right, Revelation 18:8. Therefore her plagues come in one day, death and mourning. I'll start from 7. How much she have glorified herself, see, and lived deliciously. They're like, how has he increased that which is not his, living deliciously, but it's built on debt owing people, owing nations. But this was like the melting pot, the golden city. So it's built upon fraud. All right, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. So he is falling and will fall. For strong is Yahweh power, that Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, who judgeth her. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Man, they're going to see this place get destroyed. Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, or America, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come, man. So a great city. It was great. It was full of wealth and riches, and all the resources flowed into this place from around the world. But why? Through deception, through the dollar. All right, so they increased in that which is not his. The merchandise of gold, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. All right, that was scripture say that no Arabian shall be there either. Not gonna be any businesses to do anything. There's not gonna be any businesses in this place that's going to be buying from corporations around the world anyway. All right. And cinnamon and odors, the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and gold and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all thyine wood and all manners vessels of ivory, all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. All right, because you know this place was built upon slavery. So it's all built upon fraud and bloodshed, man. All right. Wow, check this out. And the fruits that thy soul lusteth after are departed from thee, and all the things, the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from America, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. That's that never going back to normal. Can't get right. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, right? The ships, the trucks, the salesmen on the docks and the seas, and the corporations and the companies, the warehouses, which they don't have any of that in America, really. Factories, everything's been outsourced, right? Or liquidated. So now it says this. Like Toys R Us, they all move, all these different companies, they moving overseas. So they're not gonna be found in this place anymore. All right. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold, precious stones and pearls. So see, like a whore. For in 1 hour, so great riches is come to naught. So how did America get so rich? Let's go back to Habakkuk 2. All right. See, if the dollar was established in 1913 as America's currency, and in 1944 as the world currency, pegged by gold, and in 1973 by oil, pegged to oil at the petrodollar, and now through this it's a debt note, DEBT, debt. All right, let's get the definition of debt, man. This is the definition right here. Let's get this because it's important. Debt etymology. It says debt, The origin, it means what? Something owed. All right. State of being under obligation to make payment. And that's what America is, under obligation to make payment, especially since the Great Depression, 1930s, and in the 1920s, never even paid that back. All right. So now, all right, Habakkuk 2:6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. That's why everybody like, yo, it's right at the door. The collapse is around the corner. How long will it last? They're gonna kick the can up the road a little bit longer. You see that? How long can this go on? That laden itself with thick clay, man. All right, with debt. So everything it has here is loaned and borrowed. It says something pledged, pawned goods, weight of pledges, heavy debts, man. So America has laden itself with heavy debts. I think it's at 16 trillion, but they're saying it's at 400 trillion in reality, the true numbers. All right, because Babylon is falling. That's the key point. You know, and they got something up their sleeve, so they might be doing some type of another false flag, because this, you know, what they're doing now with these mandates is all false flag, and now they're moving to a new form, dealing with the global warming and stuff, man, and possible terrorist attacks or whatever, man. So be mentally prepared. That's why the Lord say, gird up the loins of your mind. All right, and encourage yourself in the Lord. Build up your faith. Fortify yourself. Jeremiah 51:6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon. Hey, flee mentally. And deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquities, man. So don't get caught up in this place, man. Because this place is about to be cut off. It's already cut off. For this is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Babylon had been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand. So the Lord used America to keep these nations on a string until the last days. All right. That made all the earth drunken, and the nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad. So now the nations are angry. All right. They were mad, meaning what you call boastful, thinking they were rich because of America. But now they see that this place is the cancer. This place is, as long as they keep dollars, US dollars in their reserve, they continue to lose their natural resources or their currency, because they have to pay to maintain or manage that basket of reserves, and to maintain their dollar reserves in the SDR basket with the IMF. And they have to pay the difference as the dollar loses value. Moving further away from the ceiling, they have to fill that space with more dollars. So buying more dollars just to fill, man, listen, they got to get rid of it. They already pulling away from it. They moving towards blockchain and the ruble and the yuan, the yen, which is backed by gold and oil. The dollar's backed by nothing. So all these countries, they're gonna do a opening of the balance sheet, and they're gonna do a force majeure to where the Fed's gonna say, hey, we don't have to pay you or take care of you guys anymore, meaning no more QE1, QE2, QE3, quantitative easing. They just print money out of thin air that doesn't really exist. In paper, they don't exist in digits. And they're gonna say America doesn't have to pay in that form of dollars anymore because it's impossible. They're gonna say you got to pay another way. That's called a default. You know, when somebody defaults on their debt, they admit that they can't pay it. They'll never pay it back. It's impossible to pay the debt of America back to the world. All right, so that's what they're doing, man. Literally, they're doing something called Operation Sandman, to where All these OPEC nations are about to pull out of the OPEC agreement started in 1973 when they pegged oil to the dollar, and they're gonna pull out at the same time, leaving the dollar in its true form, which is backed by nothing, no value, low value, and all the other nations, they're gonna have something back. And look at Venezuela, they back their currency by oil and blockchain. So now they surpassing America now on the true balance sheet, but on the de facto balance sheet, the US dollar is still the world currency, so it's the most powerful currency still. That's the only reason. So hey man, all these nations gonna pull towards blockchain, and all these other nations, these OPEC nations, gonna pull away from the OPEC deal. All right, Babylon is falling. Jeremiah 51:7. Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. All right, so the Lord used America to keep these nations in their pride. All right, Babylon is suddenly fallen, and destroyed. So it's fallen and it's going to be destroyed. That's what the boy Steve Quayle was saying. Babylon is fallen and will fall. So Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her. If so be, she may be healed. Right? So America can't be healed. These nations tried to heal it. Feds tried to heal it. QE1, QE2, all that. QE2 infinity. Increasing the debt ceiling. But now they're saying after October 15th, they can't increase it no more. So it can't be healed. That's called a default or a force majeure. How for her? Take balm for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. See that? We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her. Let us go everyone into his own country. So all these nations are going to pull away from America. All right, no more ambassadors, none of that. Forsake it. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. Yahweh, see that? Yahweh have brought forth our righteousness, to my dear elect. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of the Lord. All right, so hey man, I'll read this. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. So all the nations are really behind the scenes building up their nuclear and missile technology. All right. Yahweh have raised up the spirit of the king of the Medes. The king of the Medes represent Russia today, who's over Iran, and all these other nations like China. All right. For his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple. So hey man, so it's good to say that, man. Where is it at? So Babylon the Great is falling. I'm gonna end it there so it don't be such a long lesson, 45 minutes, and I'm gonna have to do another one. So with that, I'm gonna say shalom, and stay focused and stay prayed up, because something big about to happen. I think the end of their little event 201 is about to come to a close, and they're moving into the next phase of their trying to establish their new world order. But the Lord said what? He's going to rain fire upon them while they're eating. All right. And that's just it, man. So, shalom.